Hey everyone, quick video for you today. I wanted to introduce you all to Catioren, a site in Turkey that I have never seen before, and I was introduced to this site by Vlad9VT in his recent video, which I will provide a link to in the description. Vlad has found more pictures of this site than I could, and more information on this site than I could, so please go check out his video for some of the best photos that you can find on this site. Now, what do we see right away? Bevel blocks, but also polygonal masonry. This site is amazing, guys. This has all kinds of connected hallmarks. It has square holes, nubs, weird processing marks, trapezoidal forms, all kinds of things going on here. And also megaliths, obviously. And some of these other low relief symbols here. One of these, this is the caduceus, the twin serpent and the staff, the symbol of Hermes. There's a lot of interesting symbolism going on at this site and some other sites nearby. Interesting lintel design. Again, I want to point out this angle with the space. I think that's intentional. That's kind of like the Nimrod's fort. That lintel has a similar execution above it. Check that out in the previous episode. As far as the history of the site, due to the scarcity of documents, the history of the site has not been studied, and the original name of the site is unknown. And we can go into some more of the different eras of inhabitation here, but I'm not sure about the original builders. There's a lot of interesting motifs. We can look at some other pictures, but the incised motifs are here, and some other interesting architectural motifs that we've seen in other bevel block sites. So this is a very interesting site, guys. Now, I don't want to take away too much from Vlad's video here, but he's found some great pictures, guys. Like Shermanator Osborne has mentioned some art done in low relief on the blocks. What is this? Is this a serpent on a bevel block? How wild is that? Now, like Vlad mentions, there's a version that the polygonal masonry is the work of the Pelasgians, the sea peoples. I think there may be something to that, definitely. There seems to be a lot of connections with these Pelasgians with my bevel block sites throughout Greece. So please check out his video. I'll provide the link again in the description. This is a wild site. Here's some more information on it from a plaque at the site. We will also pull up some photos here. I think there's some really interesting things going on here. We'll look at some photos. You guys can read that in your own time. First, very interesting that the bevel blocks are at the corners. There's some odd holes in some of the blocks. Foliage maybe growing in holes. We see lots of other little, what look like broken holes, like fragments of rock broken off, and then spaces at the seams of all the joints of all the rocks. Like here, for example, a missing portion that creates a hole or a square hole almost. A lot of trapezoidal and rectangular openings, just voids made by shaping the stones in a way that left open areas. Here's an odd one for an example there. That's wild. What would that be for? Attaching something is the only thing I can think. And then you can zoom in a lot on some of these photos. There's all kinds of indentations and other motifs. Here's that caduceus again, the double caduceus. I mean, there could be all kinds of other like motifs and symbols, artwork in low relief on these blocks that's really hard to see. I know what Shermanator's talking about now. Just a really impressive construction here. It's almost madness someone would want to put a wall together like this. The bevel blocks, you don't see them as much over here. All this over here on the right is finely dressed. But then over on the left you see a couple bevel blocks here in the corners. Some instances there's rows, like over here on the right there's a few instances of rows and it's more formal. But then it kind of just loses itself over here on the left and becomes really polygonal, and there's no sense of a row. Very interesting style. A lot of small filler stones at corners, square ones. Hallmark. Just another angle here. You see smaller, you want to call this inferior stonework in the foreground, but it's all polygonal, tightly fitted as well, so who knows, it could be contemporary to the original builders. It's very interesting. This one we can zoom in on a little bit, I believe. The holes again, odd holes in the blocks and spaces, cracks at corners, broken off flaked pieces it looks like. Other areas it looks intentional, like there was something that was supposed to go there. Very impressive, very impressive. It still stayed pretty straight despite the ununiformity of the blocks. It still turned out pretty straight. Very impressive. And you can see the thickness of these blocks too. Each surface had to be planed to fit the next one like a jigsaw puzzle. Going inside, again, here's some really weird stuff. This square hole here, very odd one, and the way it's made is very impressive. It's the missing corner of this block and then a cutout piece of the lower block. And then the entryway itself, the doorway, has the incised motif carved into it, and it goes across blocks. That's pretty impressive. So the original, oh, and look, column drum segments here. I'm not sure where these went, outside or inside. I want to say outside, but there were columns here at one point, and these look unfluted, simple. Maybe they had square connections. It's hard to tell from here. Maybe not on this piece here, but maybe there on that other one. And then other interesting pieces over here like this, some voids. These are large pieces here. This must be the bedrock at this point, right? So this little square corner piece is interesting. And some of these other ones here, this little square corner piece. Very subtle, but some interesting things. And like Vlad mentions in his video, these portions appear to be older than the structures around them. I want to agree, these blocks look inferior to the other blocks we were looking at. Maybe an attempt to rebuild collapsed structures, maybe. But these are definitely connected to some of the other sites in Greece we've seen, and we can even make the connection to South America with the triple incised motifs. And another nice view looking into that doorway. We see there's recesses that were made down here. Very interesting how they were made. Rectangles, not symmetrical. That one's a little kicked out. That's interesting. Some small square holes. Again, this one's made from at the junction of 4 different blocks. Very impressive, very unique construction method there. Perhaps for a beam or an attachment point for something. Very interesting. And finally, this is a portion of the bedrock, I believe, nearby. I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. This is some pretty interesting stuff. You see, this reminds me almost of South America, the way these little stair steps are cut into the bedrock. Yeah, and this carving here, what's going on there? Very interesting surfaces, erosion. I'm not sure what's going on here. I'll leave that to some other channels. We'll stick to the bevel blocks. But some interesting things going on at this site. I highly recommend you guys go check out Vlad's video. He's pulled in a lot of photos and a lot of research that obviously took a long time to compile, and I wouldn't have been able to see some of these photos if it weren't for him. So thank you again to Vlad9VT. Thank you guys for hanging out with me, and we will talk to you next time.